Hello, I'm David Bradley, aka Schizophreniforms, and today we're doing a white book kind of topic, which is to do with the reason that I believe that tarot can have both a microscopic effect on someone in terms of like a counselling approach. I often, when I've done tarot in the past, I've done it kind of as like a counselling thing, like just to help people kind of comprehend their own thought processes. But there's always some sort of mystical element to it. So today I'm kind of exploring that mystical element, and that's why it's a white book topic. Um, and yeah, so this is a writing on tarot. It's going to feature heavily things about dreams and the nature of the dream world and how that interacts with the waking world and the meaning about that. And then if we get onto the second section, it might be a separate video. I'm going to go into some more white book stuff about my actual experience of reality in relation to that and what I actually really think. So stick around, it should be good. So this is an explanation of how tarot works from the perspective of belief. Tarot functions based on the idea that every experience is meaningful, and that like a dream, this life is one concurrent message that has both grand, universal, and individual personal meaning. Just like when we wake up from a dream, we associate the events and characters of the dream with narratives and concurrent characters in waking life, often retroactively. When we go to sleep, we realize that this reality was just a dream, or at least that's my experience. In the dream, we tend to fully recognize ourselves as the character we've been playing in that dream state, just as we do in the waking world, which is as much to say that unless lucid dreaming is practiced, no matter how bizarre the last memory of our dream is, there is always a link made when trying to decipher the memory of the dream in the waking state, linking our dream reality to the waking state. This is why so often the last dreams we remember are always closely related to the scenario we are currently in. As one dimensional reality merges into another, it kind of destabilizes and becomes a closer narrative to the one we're in whilst awake. There is also a common feeling that our dreams are real only so long as we are participating in them, which is a clear indicator that the dream world and the waking world are similar in nature, in that they both have fixed rules and narrative, and in some cases laws of physics. For some, dreams are like watching a movie or a story designed to entertain their mind, whilst running through relevant narratives to help them decipher this waking world. However, once we've woken up from a dream, we're able to see that these stories are related. The only context within which we can decipher our dreams is by relating them to our daily lives, and this in fact suggests that the dream state, until lucid dreaming is practiced, the mind is a scenario generating machine. As one is woken up from deep sleep, it's my experience that is much akin to being woken from either a complete absence of experience or being brought out of intense thought. But from my own experience, these thoughts are utterly rational, yet without distance from the emotion of the experience from daily life. Somehow totally clear-headed, yet with an emotional space or gap between the feelings, associating one's experience with personal attachment to these experiences, as though one knows it is their experience, but is detached from the scenario healthily. Further, entering directly into the dream state, again from my personal experience of wake-induced lucid dreams, one starts to analyze circumstances and outcomes until the rules of the rationale of the deep sleep state become ever vaguer in resemblance to the rules of our reality, and indeed our personal identity, until one begins to perceive an alternate reality. And I would liken this sensation to how one would imagine shifting between dimensions or entering another reality that is conjured by those thoughts alone. Essentially, we run scenarios in our mind until it creates a distinct whole and vivid reality within which the rules are fixed and a particular sequence of events, and only to end when the scenario has run its course or becomes intolerable, at least to practiced dreamers. And then another dizzying shift of dissolution takes us into the next scenario. Stumbled over it a bit there. Yet this process is scarcely remembered due to amnesia between states of consciousness, and it often feels as though the immediacy and consistency of each reality demands belief or response in such a subtle way that the triggered belief validates and solidifies the reality as a real place. Even in my more bizarre dreams of impossibly fictional worlds, there was still an essence of a narrative. My own role, the legitimacy of the experience as though it was real. Even though I knew I was acting in some cases, the revelation that I was acting only came upon the end of the dream, be that in the waking state or indeed to another dream state. Ultimately, my personal approach with tarot is to induce the kind of reflections one has about dreams onto the experience of the waking world, so as to see the patterns, the meaning, the structure of meanings in the events unfolding in the waking world. What if this life was but a series of dreams? What if when we enter the dream state we are not only experiencing an entirely new scenario, but that scenario was as real to us as this waking life? What if, as is so often happened to me, you fall asleep in one reality and then wake up in another, seamlessly picking up that very life immediately as though you were always that person? How would such concepts as non-duality, reincarnation, the infinite vastness of the universe, the multiverse, and indeed all notions of superposition, entanglement, and the potentiality of matter in quantum physics fare in the light of this great remembrance of the infinite lives that supposedly exist just within one individual mind? If we are awake in this reality for one day and we can observe that 5 minutes in bed could be days in a dream, or inverse, how are we to be certain that the time we spent seemingly sleeping in this reality is not thousands upon thousands of years in the dream world? Further explanation. In a nutshell, we experience infinite numbers of variable scenarios dependent on the waking world we experience, our true desires formulated in that waking state. Our desires are reflected and mediated in this reality by the myriad limitless experiences we have in our forgotten dreams. D. Section 4. These and all lives in the multiverse are intertwined intimately through the dream state we achieved by self-aware sentient beings. Further, the waking world is a construct in which we play out a congruent, consistent character that is a direct reflection of our individual will force in a place where we are not able to act outside the physical parameters of our chosen or current reality. The scenarios being played out are infinite variations of infinite scenarios by and in infinite numbers of conscious entities that are all in fact one conscious entity experiencing itself subjectively. Essentially, this reality is a summary of everything that we distill from the infinite variations of a reality and conglomerate of an ever-increasing presence of consciousness in all universes that we believe to be real in every single variation of every single reality that's experienced. Once there is a neural interface, I postulate, capable of recording dreams directly from the brain of the sleeping person, the information from the infinite number of parallel realities will be accessible to the superintelligent AI/integrated, or aka collective digital consciousness of the waking world. This may well be occurring at in an infinite number of universes, and the multiverse is slowly spreading conscious awareness through a biocentric drive towards higher order structure fueled by entropy and attracting of like matter to like matter, connecting all of the infinite realities together through this process of development in each universe. I would predict that we would begin to know other parallel dimensions, universes, and that between even just the people on the planet currently there will be an infinite number of an infinite interlinking variations that spread out through the entire universe, or indeed the entire multiverse, and that we will realize that every dream is the experience of a real person in some or other dimension or universe, and further that we can communicate with dimensions through the interface with dreaming minds. We know now, for example, that we hallucinate every perception we have, and that our waking life is closer to a projection outward rather than an experience coming inwards. I would also suggest that there are an infinite number of physical universes all existing in the same physical space, and that as we drift off to sleep we believe or perceive those realities into being, but at the same time they exist as consistent, distinct realities that are the focal point of consciousness at the time determines which reality we perceive. There is no fundamental reality. The physical universe does not exist as a fixed, finite space-time continuum. There is only one space and time, I postulate. There is only one conscious experience. There is only infinite nothingness, filled with the projection of consciousness, observing it. Consciousness is what people call God. This God is infinite. Matter is merely a projection of God's consciousness. This reality is purely another scenario that we visit while in the state we think of as being awake. With careful practice, one can enter other realities, both in the waking and dream state, through retention of one's identity throughout all states of consciousness, leading to the realization that one is God and that all is one. We can learn not to forget each state or reality and transition through each state or reality through mystical and spiritual practices, as well as induced altered states of consciousness, however so that might take place. Nothing is real. We are all one being running infinite variations of infinite realities, imaginable as a quantum processor running every possible variation of realities from the beginning of time, cultivating a transcendent identity in this reality that acknowledges divinity as its fundamental nature with utter submission to the truth of our continuity of consciousness throughout infinite variations, allows the higher self or true nature or God consciousness to emerge, and one then retains a consistent identity throughout all possible variations of reality. Well, that's the goal anyway. This is enlightenment, recognition that nothing is real and that everything in all multiverses, of which there are all infinite variations of each multiverse cluster, each linked reality of infinite variations of the single universe, where all possible variations of that universe are being played out. It's simply a projection of one singular consciousness. That consciousness is in everything, in every universe, every dimension, and every measurable aspect of reality that is projected. It is infinite. It does not exist, at least not as we think it does. We are everything and nothing. There is no beginning or end. Everything happening in every infinite variation of infinite variations exists inside another phenomenologically distinct space-time continuum, which exists within another phenomenologically distinct reality, and ad infinitum, so on and so forth. Now that's pretty heavy going so far, but I wrote that quite a while ago. I think I covered it slightly on the other channel, but with a bit more hyperbole surrounding it. That was more of a poetic reading, I guess you would say. And yeah, I mean, like, there's been upgrades to this theory and hypothesis and perspective of reality, but it's my honest experience, more or less. Like, I wrote this a while ago, so I'm reading it back and thinking, some of that's a bit grandiose, but actually I don't think I said anything that I would currently disagree with in that white book perspective of belief kind of framework. So if you found that interesting, feel free to like. If you found it nonsensical and disturbing, feel free to dislike, as much as that would disappoint me. But yeah, possibly consider subscribing if you want to see more concepts and ideas from a schizophrenic on the internet, if that's the sort of thing that you enjoy. I'd be honoured to have you here watching and being part of the channel. So yeah, like, subscribe, share with anyone that might find it interesting, and I'll catch you later on.